Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where we provide world-class education, entertainment, inspiration, and hope. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and we want to welcome all of our viewers across the social media platforms, especially YouTube. We want to say hello to our friends on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Roku, and also Amazon Fire TV. Thank you so much for being with us. Our show today is a brand new one. It's the journey of an author. And today we have a special guest joining us from Scotland. As a fellow author, I am always interested to hear people's backstories, how they got started, what it was that inspired them. And so I just want to share a little bit about my own work as an author. I am the author of Mastering the Power of Elevated Listening. And I'm thinking of this as sort of my new business card. This is my calling card, my business card. It's in alignment with my work as the listening mentor and also in the courses that I teach about the power of elevated listening, which, by the way, for 4 lucky people, you can take the Power of Elevated Listening course on Wednesday online. It's a 2-hour course where you'll learn how to listen without judgment, without interruption, without providing a solution, and without stealing the stage. So if you're interested, please do contact me directly. I'm going to put up my contact information now. And then if you are one of the first 4 people who reaches out, you can actually join us for the course, which is being sponsored by the Cape May County Library. I also want to share with you that I have a book signing coming up, which is this Saturday at the Flying Lizard. So I'll be there in person signing my books as well as all of my children's books. Today, we have a special author who's joining us. We just interviewed her, I think, on the corner bookstore the other day. So she is out there constantly putting out new content. She's an expert when it comes to poetry, and she really is motivated by dreams that she's had in the past. So I'm really excited to welcome Catherine Grant back to the program. Let's bring her out. Catherine, come on out. Hello.
Hi, Dr. Jacalyn. How are you?
Hello.
It's good to see you.
It's good to see you as well. I think we just had you on the other day, and I love having people back. Such a great feeling. So thank you for being here. Tell our viewers who haven't met you before where in the world you are.
I am in New York just now, in England.
In England. Okay, fantastic. And you have written a number of books. I know you're working on some others that are coming out, and you've shared with us in the past the motivation for the poetry. But for people who don't have an understanding, what is poetry?
Poetry for me is stories that are told in rhyming verse. And there's normally rather a lot to the poetry, to the verse itself. And that's really what it is.
So it's rhyming. And
yes, it has to rhyme. For me, it has to rhyme because it's easier to understand if it's rhyming.
And are there a certain number of stanzas or sentences, or is there a certain structure for poetry?
To me, no. It's only very, very important that the story is told and understood by those who are reading the words.
Thank you for that, Catherine. As a medium to deliver a message or content, is there a certain audience that your books are really for? I mean, obviously someone who appreciates understands and likes poetry. But when you're writing, are you thinking of a certain audience?
No, I'm not thinking of a certain audience, but people who like poetry, people who spend a lot of time studying different cultures, that sort of thing, then obviously they'd be some of the people who would be interested in the poetry anyway.
Absolutely. And so when I'm reading something, I know, for example, if I'm going to read something's a documentary, it's going to be very serious. When I think of poetry, I think of lightness. I
I
think of,
agree with you.
you do? Okay. I wasn't sure if that was just something in my own mind or not.
No, I
And
agree.
do you think that that lightness is an expression of you and your personality?
I think it can be, depending on the subject that you're actually portraying in and through the poetry.
I'm always fascinated to find out what goes on in an author's mind. So if someone had to describe your personality using adjectives, what would they say about you?
Part of me is very serious. There's another part that's considered to be very bubbly. I don't know what else I would say, but that sort of sums it up just now for me.
I like that because you're kind of a dichotomy, right?
I
There's
am.
two sides to it, and that can be the same about poetry as well, determining or depending on a person's perspective.
I do agree with you. I think that the important thing about any writing, not just poetry, any sort of prose at all, is balance within the person who's writing it. You need a balance. You can't be bubbly all the time. You can't be serious all the time. But it's important you're able to balance both sides of the personality, in my opinion.
True. Yeah, I agree with you. I knew someone a long time ago who was always joking around, just constant jokes, jokes. And so no one really took the person seriously because they were always joking. So you have to be able to balance that. So the reason I bring that up is because I think, just knowing myself when I'm writing, if I'm in a certain frame of mind, maybe nothing's coming to me. Maybe it's more challenging. Maybe I'm getting frustrated and I have to take a break. What happens when you have that writer's block, if you ever get it?
Gosh, probably double strength coffee if it's during the day, probably a glass of red wine if it's late at night or the middle of the night, or a bar of chocolate.
All good choices. Now, will that help unlock your frozenness, or will you just say, I'm not going to do any more writing or thinking about it until tomorrow?
Probably, yeah. That's probably up there. If I'm very tired, then I just go to bed, crash out, and say, I'm not doing anything more till tomorrow.
Yeah, because I know a number of authors put so much pressure on themselves, and then that in and of itself is an obstacle to keep your mind from opening up, isn't it?
I agree with you. Yeah. Absolutely, 100%. But when I was writing, living in France at the time, when I was writing, I had to be up at all hours to get down onto the paper everything I wanted to say and get it to the editor and that sort of thing. But now I just say, tomorrow will do. because you can actually fill your brain with something that when you look at the next day, you say, that's total rubbish. Why did I write that in the first place? And start again. I don't know about you. That's what happens with me, Dr. Jacalyn.
Now, is your process pen in hand and you're journaling, you're writing it down? Are you typing your thoughts? How do you actually get it out there?
I have a notepad and a pen. I write it. And then once it's written, it goes straight onto the computer. And I decide, is it going to the publisher now or is it staying? But what am I doing? You know, so I like to write with a pen and paper. Normally sitting in a coffee bar or a museum or something.
Oh, I love, so you have a nice surrounding.
Yeah, very interesting. Lots of different people there, lots of different opinions, nationalities, everything. And to me, that's just wonderful. In fact, there's a museum in the city of Glasgow called Kelvin Grove Museum and Art Gallery. It's absolutely fabulous place. It really is. And there are so many interesting people go in there. And the artwork is fantastic. The statues, everything. There's a lovely light feeling in there. It's beautiful.
I love when you have a nice surrounding or something that inspires you. Now, what about the pen in hand? What kind of pen is it? Is it an ink pen? Is it a pen?
Yes.
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 And
Fountain
does it have
pen.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's a fountain pen.
Fountain pen. I love that. Do you do
Yeah.
calligraphy also?
No, but I learned with a fountain pen to do my signature the way I always wanted to do it.
That's fantastic. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love
do
it.
too.
There's nothing
I
like
know
a
a
good pen.
calligrapher. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I was just saying there's nothing like a good pen, a pen that you really love to like. I feel like you can express yourself more or better or something.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
It's wonderful, the feeling of a pen and the inks there. You know, there's so much in you that has to be taken and illustrated through writing it down and people saying, gosh, this is good. And it all comes from the pen. After it leaves your brain, the pen takes over.
That's right. And it's almost like your energy is flowing through the pen, through the ink onto the paper.
Oh gosh, I really agree with you on that, Dr. Jacalyn. I once wrote a poem called Peter the Pen. And it's not really about a pen, it's someone's personality who was writing a poem, but the pen took over. And it started to say, no, this isn't right. I want it to be like this. It should be like that. And, it was really quite a personality in itself. But the pen is so important, Dr. Jacalyn, as far as I can see anyway. And I know you probably feel the same because you've said so a few minutes ago.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I was in a sales career for 20 some years. And if I had a special contract, a client was going to sign something, maybe I'd give them my pen, but usually they'd have their own special pen for signing contracts.
Yeah.
And because it's a special occasion that you're making a commitment to something, and why not do it? You work on your signature, and why not make that permanent with a beautiful pen and beautiful ink?
I agree with you. I bought a beautiful Parker pen years ago. Fountain pen, absolutely wonderful. And I haven't stopped using it since.
But you know what? That makes you special, because if you think about most people, everything's typed and people are not writing or voice to text, or it's being recorded and by the way, we do have an audio audience, and so they can't see you right now and they can't see what's next to you, but you have some of your beautiful work right there. Could you describe to our viewers and our listeners what it is, the books that you have next to you?
The books I have next to me are books of poetry and also short stories or flash fiction, depending on, the individual book. But they were written in my journeys through France because, as I said to Red a few days ago, I had a dream years ago and I couldn't identify the place that the dream was set in. I'd never been there in my life. And lifted a book belonging to a friend of mine when I was about 24 years of age. And inside that, there were half a dozen pictures of a place I'd never been to, but it was a place in my dream. And I decided then I had to go there, find out, is it real? What's it all about? And actually found out quite a lot, but it made me want to continue in different parts of France and find out what was there too. There was a lot more to it. And no matter how much I delved into it and looked at it, there was always more to find out, Dr. Jacalyn. It was never a case of, this is it, we can sum this up in one paragraph or one story. It was nothing like that. It went on for over, probably about 20 years. Even now, it hasn't finished. It's still going on.
There. Would you say you're a curious person?
Very.
Yeah, me too. I love to learn new things, and I love to have people just share their perspectives. They could be completely different. I just like to learn from them.
Yeah, I like that too. Yeah, it's so important. We're learning from the day we're born until the day we die. every single day we learn something. That's so important, I feel, and I know you do too.
Absolutely. Now, when you were on the corner bookstore, I know you were talking about the fact that in addition to the work you already have out there that's available on Amazon, you have some new content that's coming out. Can you tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll talk about what you've already done?
Okay, what's coming out is a book, a game of scattered clues. This is going to be called. It takes place in France, and everything I experienced, it became like a quest, Dr. Jacalyn, something I had to keep moving and trying to figure out what was happening next. Now, what I've done is I've put it in the book, and the book, of course, is going to be about the whole quest, really, which is still going on. It doesn't end, it can't end. But people have said, why not make a game from it? Why not do this? And actually, I do agree with them, because I have spoken to some people and they've said to me, we do want to know, we would like to know, we want to know more than what we have just now. It sounds very interesting. So that's what I've been doing just now, Dr. Jacalyn, and I should be finished probably quite very soon, in fact, probably within about a couple of months.
Good for you. That's excellent. How important to you is it to have feedback from your readers? Are you really honed in on reviews? Are you upset if you don't get a review? How do you feel?
It's very important. I want to know what people think of it and how it can be improved.
So that's a tough one, by the way. We just had a show earlier about something totally different, and we were talking about feedback. And as a coach myself, I love feedback, because how can we grow? How can we expand? I also think that it's important to deliver the feedback in a positive way. So if you get a review, and I don't know that you have or that I have, but I know that people do this, but they leave reviews that are really mean, just mean, and there's really nothing positive to take from it. So what are your thoughts about that?
I've never had a review.
No. But if
I would like a review, but I've never had one.
But if someone left a review, it should be constructive. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, it has to be constructive, of course. No, it can't be destructive at all. It has to be constructive. In fact, say nothing rather than say something negative or destructive. Just say nothing.
That's what I was always taught. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything. But it seems like in our world today, people are very quick to just put anything negative out there and not think about how it impacts the other person. And I think this, along with name calling, when you call someone a name, there's no information there. So if someone's going to leave a review and the review is just, it's not a nice review, what is the author supposed to take from that so that you can incorporate it into your next work? Really nothing. It has to be constructive.
Yes, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about sunsets and thunderstorms. What was the motivation for this?
Sunsets and thunderstorms. This was before I started the quest. But sunsets and thunderstorms was a combination of everything I was looking at, places I visited, old boats and old railway cars and things like that, everything that I'd seen. And I decided I have to write something about this. So sunsets and thunderstorms. There are some stories in with the poetry too in Sunsets and Thunderstorms. So it doesn't really cover the quest at all, but it covers other things. So I like that book. It's in a way, it's something that's good if you're interested in nature and, of course, things that are old and things that are new. It's a good book. It's a really good book for that. I like it very much, Sunsets and Thunderstorms.
Now, for our audio only audience, we actually have pulled up Amazon.com, and we're actually looking at the cover of Sunsets and Thunderstorms. The cover is quite beautiful. Can you share how you came up with this cover, or did you hire someone to assist you?
No, I didn't. I saw the picture and I thought it's obviously a sunset. The picture is sunset, but the clouds that are behind it indicate that there could be a thunderstorm on the way. And when I lived in Spain, this was quite normal. You had a beautiful sunny day, sun went down, beautiful sunset, and then normally thunder would follow.
You know what's so amazing, especially when you look at the book cover, you just think about it. To me, when I look at that, I see the beauty of the sun setting, and then I see the darkness, but then I see the opportunity. I see the light, and you can't have light without darkness.
That's true.
Right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So for anyone who is interested in purchasing this, what would you like them to take away from this particular book?
From this particular book, beauty of nature, the beauty of people and everything in the world. It's all right to say things are really awful in the world and this is happening and this shouldn't be happening. But stop for a minute and think, it's still a beautiful world. There's still a lot of beautiful things in the world, nature. There's some beautiful people who really wouldn't thank you for saying, gosh, that's awful. You know, they like it's, yes, there's so much that you can take away from it. The world is beautiful. The people, the animals are too. We're all part of the one thing.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Sorry, I was just typing your contact information for people who are interested. So, Catherine, tell us now about the quest. And what is your definition of a quest?
The quest is something that's preying on your mind that you have to follow and find out about. And whether it sort of comes to something or comes to nothing at that point is irrelevant. You have to look. You have to keep going, whether you want to or not. That's the thing about the quest. And obviously there's a lot more to it, a lot more that you feel inside that you have to do and places you have to be. You go there and there are either answers to something that was in your dream, or it's something that's happening now. It's something that takes your life. It takes your whole life to do, and you can't stop it. You can't say, stop, I've had enough of this, because it just keeps going. And it's a learning curve. You're actually, at the end of the day, you're learning about yourself. So, yeah.
Wouldn't you say also that if you're curious and you have a certain mindset, that life is a quest? We're always seeking something.
Yes, life is a quest anyway. I agree with you.
So here's a question I have for you about quests. So I know people who are always searching, and whatever's in front of them, whatever they have, it's not enough. And they're on to the next thing, and they're on to the next thing. How do we temper our desire for curiosity through quests at the same time not being unappreciative of where we are in time now?
I don't know for some people, but I've always had one quest, and that's actually what I'm still doing. I'm involved in just now. It is life, and I'm curious, yes. But when you discover that somewhere you've had in a dream for maybe 20 years turns out to be real and you'd never been there, and when you actually go there, the person who owns the place, that's like a small chateau type thing, but it's a commandery, Templar commandery, when they come to the door and say, you've been here, vous avez déjà vu, and you have to say no, and say why, because you don't want to tell the person that you actually had a dream about this place ever since you were a child. Yeah. And that's the one quest. It's the one quest.
Yeah, that's amazing. I know that you've shared that, and it's so rich, really, with hope. I think with hope, because you've had the dream and then you went to the place and you met with the proprietor and they thought you've been here and you haven't. So do you think that you were there in another life?
I would have to, yes, because there was a lot more to the dream, Dr. Jacalyn. And at the end of the dream, in the dream, I died. which I didn't like very much, of course. But of course, I didn't remember any more about it after that until obviously I was here now. But yes, I do. I do believe in past life for the simple reason that more than half the world believes in past life. And it's, yeah, there's so much that would say to me, yeah, there has to be past life. You know, it's not as cut and dried as being born and dying and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've never thought of it like that. In fact, if I'm absolutely honest, I haven't really thought about religion very much either. But because it causes so much wars, there's so many wars being fought, and it's, yeah, crusades, everything.
Yeah, I
All
want to go
because-
back to the dream for a moment. I
Yeah.
know myself that various times in my life when I've had a dream, I woke up and I wanted to go back so I could find out how it finished or what was going to happen to me. Did you ever have that happen?
Yes.
Yeah. So,
Yes.
but you actually you had the dream and then you've gotten to sort of live the dream. How did you reconcile those in your mind?
I don't know how I actually reconciled it, but I just had to. I had to keep moving. I had to keep going. I mean, I was standing in the middle of Chartres Cathedral one day years ago, and I said to the person that was with me, I said, look, yes, Chartres, absolutely fantastic. Let's go down to the commandery. That's the Templar commandery that the lady she owned the place, and we'll see her. And as soon as I got there, I said, I have to go to Spain now. And I had no idea why. And the two people in the car said to me, what do you mean you have to go to Spain? I said, I don't know. I just have to go. And they said, whereabouts in Spain? And I said, I don't know. As soon as I get there, I'll tell you. And I had no idea what was happening. We crossed the border into Spain from France. And I said, take this road here, the small road, not the motorway for some reason. And we took the small road. We drove for about an hour and a half. And I said to the person, once you go round the next bend, you're going to see the most beautiful old castle on the rocks. And there's going to be a small horseshoe bay of Sandy Bay. And that's what you're going to see. And a lighthouse. And they said, how do you know? And I said, I don't know. I'm just saying. And then after a few minutes, went round the bend, and this was exactly what was in front of us. And I had no idea because I'd never been there before in my life.
That's incredible. So, Catherine, did you learn what was your mission? What was the reason you were led there?
There was something I was supposed to discover there. And I did see a few things that, yeah, that I probably shouldn't have found. And but I'm still searching, Dr. Jacalyn. It's something that doesn't reach an end. It just continues. It's, as you said earlier, it's life. It's the whole life is, yeah.
Have you ever felt that you were in jeopardy or peril or danger?
Yes, definitely. More than once.
And so when you think about that, is it because this quest, it's just is the word emboldened, emblazed in your mind and in your being, in all of who you are, that you just have said to yourself, I'm not going to let fear or the fact that something could happen stop me?
Definitely. No, I couldn't let it stop me at all.
That's powerful.
I remember being chased in a car going down the motorway in France, heading towards Carcassonne area, and the car happened to be, it was a red Ferrari, funnily enough, and of course it could go a lot faster than I could, and but when I pulled off the road, and he couldn't have known that I was going to pull off the road at the garage, I pulled off there. He was sitting at the garage, the man in the red Ferrari. And when I got back into the car again, he continued to follow us down the road for about another 60 or 70 miles. I wasn't frightened. I was curious, but I wasn't frightened. And I thought, someone who doesn't say something but follows you is really being quite sort of cowardly in a way. But yeah, that was what happened there.
It's an incredible story. Thank you for being brave and sharing it with us today. I
No.
appreciate it. I want to talk a little bit about rhyme, reason, and rhythm. So I
Yes.
believe you have 3 volumes. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
And what's the progression or the evolution from the first one to the third one? Or how are they the same or different?
Actually, there isn't so much. The rhyme, of course, is the poetry itself, and the reason would be the reason for the poetry, which is interspersed in stories throughout the volumes anyway. And the rhythm is something that you always imagine when it's rhyming. You found that the reason is a purpose for it, and the rhythm, of course, is something that just comes to you when you're reading anyway. And that really is what's behind the titles.
I love that. That's very clever. And tell us about the covers.
The covers, gosh,
So to our audio audience, can you pick up the first volume and just describe what it is that's on the cover there?
it would be, the cover is sort of lilac and glittery throughout it. That's a bit sort of dreamy cover. Definitely.
So would you say it represents a dream state?
Definitely. Yes.
And we're
Yeah,
looking
without
at
a shadow of a doubt.
we're looking at volume 3 right now. So yeah, it kind of, I feel like it's very uplifting. I love the color purple. That's my favorite color.
Oh, it's mine too.
Oh, it is. It's so funny.
Yeah.
Now, when you look at the font that you've used, did you envision you with your pen and writing it out yourself?
Yes, I did. Yes, which is why the certain script was used on the titles.
Yeah, I love that.
Uh-huh.
And I would love for you to read for us. Would you be open to that?
I could read I have 4 lines, which is about the poetry, if you'd like to hear that.
That would be great. Thank you.
Okay, just put the glasses on. This is really just saying that what's happening. I have 4 lines here. What if none of it mattered? None of it was real? A dream trapped subconscious in a conscious world, a wheel. Or perhaps it's an apprenticeship, existence such like this, that every soul must navigate a part they cannot miss.
Beautiful. And I could hear the rhythm in your cadence, in your voice. And I think that's important, because if you were to read it really quickly and then very slowly, I don't think it would have the same effect.
I agree with you. I think so. Yeah,
it's interesting. So we've had one other poet on here, I believe. So I don't know that when you look at the number of authors versus poets, do you have any sense? Is it a smaller portion?
Oh, I think it is a smaller portion of poets as opposed to prose writers, straight prose. Yeah.
Would you
But I
say,
always, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, it's all right.
I was going to say, do you think that it's a different part of a person's brain that comes up with poetry as opposed to just writing in general?
Probably.
I think it's harder. I mean, if I were to sit down and write something, I know with 2 other people, we wrote a song about listening, and it rhymes, but it took work. It wasn't the same thing as sitting down to write the children's book, whereas that can just flow out. The poet, it takes more work because of the rhythm and the rhyme.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Now, have you ever thought of taking any of your poetry and making it into a song?
Yes, I have. Years ago, I thought of taking one of my poems. I actually did take one of the poems, and I made did a song out of it, which I wanted to enter in the Eurovision Song Contest, but didn't bother sending it away.
Now, why? That was an opportunity that you had there.
I know.
Now, were you going to sing it yourself?
I was at that time, yes.
Are you a singer?
I was a singer. I don't sing so much now, but yes, I was a rock singer and a country singer. And then I just started singing standards, things like that.
Oh my goodness, I didn't know that about you. We'll have to have you on one of our other shows to sing.
Oh, I was very young. I was in my 20s.
Still inside you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you started out singing and then went to writing.
Yes. Although I started writing poetry when I was very young. I went to school not far from Glasgow, and they took us to Edinburgh Zoo one day, and I was a small child, and we went to Edinburgh Zoo, and I started to look at, it was polar bears, and they looked very, very dirty, and they were all in these cages, and they looked miserable. So I decided to write a poem about the polar bears, which was published in the school magazine. I was only about 9 or 10 years of age, and did this. And after that, I just kept writing poetry all the time. I felt that I needed to write poetry. And the next thing was I wrote A Dream of Ballet, and it was about ballet dancers, and absolutely love ballet. I can
see poetry as a stepping stone or building block for songwriting. So it seems like you've already done that when you were younger. Why not put some work into that too?
Yeah, I should. Yes, that's a good idea.
Especially since you're a singer, I'm sure you have a beautiful voice, and that could bring you joy in other ways as well.
Yeah. Yes, it could. But
so for anybody out there who's aspiring to be a writer, or maybe someone, let's take a different approach, for someone who's having a dream, what would you recommend? I know you're not a medical doctor or therapist, but just based on your own experience when it comes to dreams, would you say for someone to go ahead and try to find the answer to the dream that they're having by going on a quest themselves?
If it's a recurring dream, if it's recurrent, then I'd say yes, it's really your duty to yourself to find out just what it is, especially if it's causing you to feel there's something wrong, but you can't put your finger on it, and it's really upsetting you, then I would say that you had to do it. Or if you're just very, very curious, the way I am, you can, I think you have to find out. It's your duty to yourself, really, if you can. I'm not saying that everybody can, because it involves quite a lot of traveling to do that. But if you can, it's worth it.
And Catherine, where in the world will your quest take you next?
Back to Spain and France.
Any idea where?
Gosh, obviously outside Chartres, the little village of Sur would be one in France. In Spain, it would be Catalonia, on the northeast coast of Spain, not about 50 miles from Barcelona. And I loved it, lived there for nearly 20 years.
Sounds amazing. Have you thought of possibly blogging about your journey as you go?
Yes, I'm thinking of doing that this time, definitely.
I know when we saw you last, you're working on your website. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Will you have the blogs there?
I will.
Good.
I will, definitely.
Fantastic. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure having you back. I know we're going to be seeing you on Amazon Live. I think it's April the 1st. I'll have to check the calendar. So thank you for sharing with us today. What would you like to leave the audience with? What message do you have for them? And how can people reach you? Obviously, they can purchase your books on Amazon, but if they want to reach out to you directly, you're on Facebook. And
yes.
if you're on Instagram, but how can people reach you and what's your message to them?
My message is just continue to do what you really want to do and find out everything you can about what you want to be aware of knowing and gathering facts on. I think that you have to your own self, be true anyway, and find out everything you want to find out, and don't stop until you do.
And for people to reach you?
Okay, I have emails.
Yes. We have, how do you say that? Kalerva8 at outlook.com.
Yeah, it's Kalerva8 at outlook.com. And Kalerva, while I say Kalerva is a name I made up.
I was wondering what it was.
Two goddesses. I was writing a story, Kali, the Indian goddess of time, and Minerva, the Roman goddess of war and wisdom. And I put two names together, both names, and of course it's Kalerva.
Oh, I'll always remember it from that. Thank you. It's beautiful.
You're welcome.
Well, it's been a pleasure having you today. Thank you so much. And we look forward to continuing to support your work and hear more about your journey.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Dr. Jacalyn. It was my pleasure.
Thank you. Have a good night. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for watching or listening, whether it's on the live or the replay. If you are watching us on social media, please, if you have a Roku stick at home, Roku television, download our app, USA Global TV and Radio. And we're also on Amazon Fire. So if you have an Amazon Fire Stick, go ahead and download our app on USA Global TV and Radio. That concludes our first episode of The Journey of an Author, as we welcomed Catherine Grant. And of course, we already shared her information. I'll put it back up again. Please feel free to order her books and also contact her at her email address. Thank you so much for being here with us. Again, we really do appreciate it. We look forward to seeing you on a future episode. Bye for now.